So the prices for watching AFC Bournemouth in the 23-24 season have been released. For a while now we've known the deal for season ticket holders, but yesterday we found out just how much non-season ticket holders will be paying. And newsflash, there are indeed price rises. But that wasn't wholly unexpected, right? For a while now, the new ownership at Dean Court, it's brought an increased urgency to improve the financial prowess of the club with a view of maximising our potential in a number of ways to make us competitive as possible. Already they've increased monies gained through stadium naming rights, sponsorship, hospitality, advertising, and now, in a not wholly unexpected move, it's the supporters that are now being asked to stump up more cash to watch their beloved team. Ouch. But look, we knew this would probably happen soon enough though, right? As the club had frozen ticket prices for what seemed like an eternity. Previous to this, people in the North Stand, as far back as 2015, our first Premier League season, were paying £32 a ticket. Just what they were last season. Granted, there were significant price rises in the seasons before that, but for 7 years, there has been no change. But how much more are we paying now though? Is it the same for all stands? Is it fair? And can it be justified? In this video, we'll go through the stats, the facts, and from there, you can make up your own mind. Let's dive in. Firstly, a number of weeks ago, AFC Bournemouth announced the prices for season tickets, with the opening paragraph lauding an 8% increase for the majority of supporters. This actually was met with a fair amount of positivity. A North Stand season ticket holder who was paying $5.50 last season, this season 8%, $5.94. Happy days. But scroll down a little further though, and the club chucked in a curveball because there was also £14 extra to pay to watch 2 women's games, which at the time was a mandatory additional cost. I can see why they did it. I can see the logic of trying to garner more support for the women's team, and it's good to see the club trying to think of ways to generate more support. But this time though, it came across a bit "you will" rather than "you can." It was a different type of marketing, to say the least. In a way, it reminds me of being in the States where a beer is advertised for $8. But after the mandatory tipping of the bartender, then you actually emerge with no change from a $10 bill. I swear it said 8. Maybe that's the norm in America, but here it's a little bit different. In Britain, it's a case of say what you see. Anyway, that decision was reversed. Maybe if they had added the £14 onto the price in the first place and just said that 2 games were free, then I don't think anyone would have really batted an eyelid. Batted an eyelid? I never got that phrase. What? Anyway, unfortunately the women's team were kind of caught in the crossfire a little bit. For the majority, it has to be said that the issue was never about not supporting the women's game whatsoever. It was more about the way the club was selling a product. In fact, look, I'm sure that many of us will come out and support the women's team and go to the games when they're announced by turning up in their scores. It was never about that. I digress. Anyway, back to pricing. So, using a North Stand season ticket holder as an example in this video, I can't do every stand, can I? No. It's $5.94. Remember, that's an 8% rise. So, are the non-season ticket holders being treated to a similar percentage rise? Well, in short, no. Last season, if you exclude the admin fees, a North Stander would be paying £32 times 19 to watch the Cherries, so that's a grand total of $608. This season though, you've got to be Carol Vorderman or Rachel Riley, as yesterday it was revealed that the games are now going to be categorised according to the opposition. 7 teams are in Category A, 8 are in Category B, and 4 are in Category C, the latter being the so-called least desirable category. So, for the North Stand at least, the prices are £39, £37 and £31 respectively. Quite a jump from B to C, isn't it? But what it did do was allow the club to lead with a £1 drop in ticket prices headline. Like it. Clever. So add all these together and what do you get? You get £693, which is a 12.78% rise. It's not just the North Stand where there are rises. In the main stand, where last season it was £45 a ticket, the most expensive seats at Dean Court by the way, anyone who attended the games all season, assuming a fee of £3 is added per transaction, was paying a total of £912. Next season, it's £1,004, which is around a 10% rise. Not quite sure though why the most expensive tickets, arguably purchased by the more affluent fans, warrant a 10% rise, but the North Stand 13%. But that's by the by. Either way, it's an increase. Can they justify it? Well, they probably can. Of course, there's inflation, and also the fact that they can say that visiting Dean Court now, after their cosmetic work to the ground last season, can be sold as a better experience with all the flags, music and light shows, etc. Plus, on the pitch as well, it hopefully will come to pass that Andoni Iraola's football might actually be better than Gary O'Neill's. I mean, I'd pay more to see a more cohesive style of football, wouldn't you? God, I'm being so harsh today. Anyway, back to the tickets. Now, we don't know what's happening with the admin fees per transaction yet, but in this video we're just going to assume that there is still a £3 fee every time you buy a ticket like there was last season. For the 23-24 campaign, the club are trying to provide supporters with earlier access to match tickets, with some games going on sale as early as 5 to 6 weeks before they kick off. So I suppose there is the argument that you might be able to buy a few matches at once, thus reducing your admin fee for each transaction. Maybe, but also it has to be reported that the club are now enforcing 3 point drops per week instead of 2. So the likelihood is that tickets will just sell faster and people want to get their tickets as soon as they can to make sure they get them. So in effect, you probably won't be able to bulk buy. You'll still be buying games individually. So if we roll with £3 per transaction, then it then means North Standers pay 3 times 19 games plus the 693 I said earlier, 750 quid. Now, season ticket holders with the admin fee, as there's only one transaction involved, just add one set of £3 to the 594, which makes 597. So with the example of using the North Stand, the difference between being a season ticket holder and being a non-season ticket holder is a grand total of 22.7%. Look, I get there has to be a bonus of being a season ticket holder, so you'd expect them to benefit somehow, of course. After all, they're paying all the money up front at once, so it's probably right that their loyalty is rewarded. But a difference of £153 though? Not sure about that, especially as many non-season ticket holders also attend every game too. They're no less loyal. Some of them are actually pretty hardcore. That word's not going to get me demonetised, is it? Hopefully it won't. In fact, I know many non-season ticket holders that go to every game that would bite your arm off for a season ticket. I don't have one myself, and whilst I'd possibly be game for one, until now I've actually not been too fussed. I like the variety of different stands and it makes every match day different for me, and I've also got the flexibility of missing games if I really need to, and for that a premium I suppose should be paid. But 22% difference now though, I'm thinking twice about it. I'd actually quite like one, but it is what it is. I expect the truth is, whilst we are where we are in this 11,000 seater stadium, the club probably don't even want more season ticket holders. If anything, it probably wants less than they've already got, as they want a larger number of unique people going to games. What do I mean by that? Well, they want all non-season ticket holder seats to be purchasable by as many different people as possible, hence the creation of schemes like Cherries Tuesday. I'll tell you more about that in a bit. And also deploying point gains for friendlies and women's games to increase the people competing for seats. It sounds a little bit like the Hunger Games, doesn't it? But it's not quite like that, and I'll explain more shortly, but let's break up the monotony of my own voice and find out what the fans think. We spoke to one particular fan who gave us his view on the rises. Which fan is it? Tom. Oh, you can't get away from him. Roll VT.
I think from my perspective as a season ticket holder, I think I get enough perks, if you like, in the sense that obviously I have my seat secured every week, goes without saying. And yeah, I don't have to go through the rigmarole of getting tickets, you know, and seeing when they're out and going onto the website and using the phone, etc, etc. But I feel like I get enough perks. I think if you're a fan that goes to every game, say for example in the North Stand, and you go to every game, you're a non-season ticket holder, I think you're looking around 750, whereas I'm paying just shy of 600. Feels a little bit steep, feels a little bit odd at how the difference that sort of money will make the club compared to how much difference that will make for the match going fan in a cost of living crisis. So bit bizarre. The categorising of games has always baffled me, but most clubs seem to do it. But yeah, from my point of view, you go to watch Bournemouth, it doesn't make a difference who the opposition is, but regardless, we'll all be there, won't we?
Tom Jordan there. That guy is everywhere. Right, should we talk about this categorisation then? Let's do it. So, right, as I said earlier, the games are being rated A, B and C, depending on the quality of the opposition. Do other clubs do it? Well, yeah, they do, and it probably won't come as any surprise to you that Bournemouth are in no one's category A. So, who are the top 7 in our category A? Well, as expected, it's the top 6, plus Newcastle, of course. But is it right to categorise games? Well, some people think not. Seems a shame that they think that we give a damn about who we're playing. We go to games to watch Bournemouth, not the top 6. If there are so-called fans that only want to go to those games, then they are not real Bournemouth fans, so they should not get tickets at all. I like what you're saying, Hillary, but on the other hand, see, I know some might be annoyed about specifically the categories, but I feel it's a smart move for the club as it'll hopefully reduce the amount of the top 6 fans sitting in our home stands for the big games when fans are needed the most. Fair point, Dino. For me, in my mind, for category A games, I'll actually be paying more to watch a game that will actually likely be less competitive, therefore I'll enjoy less as well. I'll actually probably pay more to watch Luton rather than Liverpool. But look, I can see it from the club's perspective. For those games against category A sides, demand will be higher and there are always going to be kids and adults that will want to be watching the likes of Erling Haaland and Mo Salah rather than, I need the name of a Sheffield United player. Anyone? A newly promoted player. So it's almost a Centre Parks type strategy that we're seeing, pricing according to demand. What will this achieve though? Well, potentially an increased number of unique attendees, i.e. getting different bums on seats every week. What it'll do is possibly make the more fair weather fans prioritise the games they go to. I mean, I assume that's what they're thinking, otherwise they'd have just taken the mean price across all the tiers and then just priced them at whatever the average is, which I think is £36.47. I did that off by heart. No, I did. The end result should be a larger number of unique individuals watching the Cherries this season, and I sense that's what they're aiming to do. We've all heard what owner Bill Foley said about increasing the numbers and demographic to watch the Cherries, right? And this is what we're seeing right now. And I get why. As ahead of any newly developed stadium, it'll encourage as many different people as possible to watch the games and get them lubed up. I can't believe I just said that. But you know what I'm trying to say? Ahead of a new stadium move, it's like having warm leads. I'll explain that in a minute. It's clear that the club probably had this in mind also with the introduction of Cherry Tuesdays. Cherry Tuesdays, I hear you cry. Yes, Cherry Tuesdays, a new scheme whereby a limited number of newly identified seat locations will be held during the initial point drops. Newly identified? What's that, sat on the roof or something? Not sure. But either way, with this scheme, once all tickets are issued, the club will release the remaining seats on the following Tuesday, and these seats will be available to all home supporters with just one or more Cherries home points. A great way to get new bums on seats. Season ticket holders, of course, they won't need to worry about this malarkey. But for non-season ticket holders, set your alarms as you will need to be on the ball. Tuesdays, Thursdays and Saturdays will be the ticket drop days from now on. You'll need to be organised, you'll need to be fast and you'll need to be alert, because if not, there will be someone ready to pounce on any lapses in your concentration. It's dog eat dog, it's Squid Game. Okay, too much. But essentially, the club is increasing its chances for other fans, the fans that don't get to games, to get to games. So therefore, there is a greater chance that you'll miss out. Some say it is squeezing out those who are loyal, and you could say that, but look, I've no issue with it really. The moves that they're making, whilst on the surface it could be deemed a bit steep or harsh amid a cost of living crisis, are seemingly being made with a view to hit the ground running for when we move to a new home. Like I said before, in the sales world, a warm lead is better than a cold lead, and by having 8,000 people going for 4,000 seats for every home match day, that's 8,000 people who will be warmed up and primed for having a seat at the new stadium, be it as a season ticket holder or a non-season ticket holder, rather than the same old 4,000 we have now. It's a bold move and it's a brave one, but I can see why they're doing it though. In a way, I actually feel perversely comforted that we have the business nous to realise this. As a whole, it's got to be said that our club are getting more commercially savvy, and it's probably a good thing. I think the club probably make about $250,000 per match day. With increased prices and hospitality in place, well, I genuinely think we could push that to $500,000. It sounds like they're already converting the beloved 1910 bar into a place for hospitality next season. But where will we go? The fans? Well, I'm not actually sure. I mean, we've got a small ground, we haven't got much room. Maybe we'll need to go to a proper pub. Twist my arm. If that's the case, I'll live with that. But I feel like the club are perhaps sensing that a move is imminent, so they're pushing every commercial avenue possible, and I can see why. Money doesn't grow on trees, and we need to evolve into a new stadium with the financial muscle and fan base to grow with it, to fill it, and to pay for it. At the same time though, there is a fine line and a fine balance, I suppose, between treating people like us as customers rather than fans. Have they overstepped the mark? I don't think they have, but it is something that they'll want to keep in mind as we continue to grow this football club. The fans are at the heart and soul of Dean Court, but whilst we don't provide the most money, without us, the club wouldn't be here in the first place. Either way, it does feel like we're pushing Dean Court to the limits whilst we still got it. The bottom line is, I suppose, I really hope this doesn't price anyone out of coming to games. I suspect what it will do is maybe just encourage people to take their own food rather than buying those dodgy rollover hot dogs and overpriced packets of 12 bites. I mean, how much are they? £2.50 is it? They are tasty though. But ultimately, yes, it's disappointing to see these ticket price rises and fans getting squeezed, but when people say they want the club to lose its small club mentality and start acting like a Premier League club, as Chris Root said on Twitter, this, unfortunately, is what it looks like. And look, the price at many other Premier League teams is significantly higher, and not many others have eras as exciting as ours around the corners, with training complexes, stadium talk and a lot more besides. And maybe for that reason we should count ourselves lucky. Potentially we should, but as long as our football club doesn't forget its soul amid the hunger to thrive and be successful, then I think that's all fans can ask for. Yes, we always want to always advance, never retreat, but let's not also forget that together anything is possible too. So what are your thoughts? Are you okay with it? Maybe you've had your say. Maybe you were about to have your say before you got wooed by Andoni Iraola's arrival at Dean Court. Perfectly timed, by the way, just 2 hours later. Like it. But if you do want to comment, let us know below. We'll read everyone and tell us what you think. Until the next one, up the cherries. Nearly one take. Nearly.